Pablo,
What's up, man?
one of the topics I want to talk to you about, with you about is about design tools. And I
Design
know
tools.
that you are design lead in Vision, right? And so
Correct.
you work with these things every day.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things that are happening now in design tools. But you
Yeah.
told me that not enough. You think that not enough is happening yet.
Yeah. I
I
think,
mean,
first of all, yes, about designing design tools. I get to do that every day. Like, I work with an amazing team at Envision of amazing designers and engineers and product people. And one of the, I don't know, weird things about designing in Envision is that we're using our design tool to design things about that design tool. So we're using Envision Studio, which is our design tool, and we use Envision Studio to design Envision Studio, and it's pretty cool, pretty interesting. Sometimes I don't know, your brain is just like I sort of make the mistake where I click my
Is
design,
that
thinking that I was clicking the actual interface. But yeah, it's pretty fun, and it's pretty fun to have the opportunity to be able to design something that it's something that you would use, but also potentially help other designers and you as designers to also we think that we understand the problems that as designers we have, and we get to create a tool to make it easier for other people to create amazing stuff.
So what are like the focus is mostly like, is it productivity? Is it like creativity, or is it all of them? What do you focus on when you do these kind of, like when you're designing these tools?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a little bit of everything. You want a design tool that is responsive, that is going to feel efficient, and is going to make you better and give you these like superpowers. And so we want to create a design tool that makes you feel like you're being efficient. And for that, it's not just an appearance. We should give you the tools and the features that you need as a designer to actually make your work better and faster. So yes, that is one of our focus. I think also there's opportunity to create a tool that that makes you feel at home. I don't like it makes
Use your
you.
habits, basically.
What's that?
Use your habits. What is it like? Feel at home, like to be able to use your habits, to be able to be
Yeah,
comfortable.
where I suppose you make a design tool that feels like it's yours, that speaks to you, and you can customize it in a way that you invest in a tool, and you invest in a design that suddenly it's potentially only you and your team understand it. So it's a design tool that allows you to create something for I don't know, your company, or like create a design system that you can reuse in different projects, for example. So then this design tool allows you to have this tool inside the design tool that you can reuse and make you more efficient. And you feel at home because you are using components that in a way that you and your team understand. And you're able to come back later and open a new file, for example, and you're using a library or design system that is going to give you the ability to do something, a quick mock-up or a quick design, a quick prototype, and animation really fast, because you understand that you know where everything is. So
you think components is part of the customized experience? They produce the customized experience.
Yeah, allow you to build your components in a way that makes sense to you, and that is going to be easy for you to find, and is going to be easy for you to just customize and make it yours. And
you're building tools, basically.
Yes. So you're using a tool to build tools too. So right. I think it's really interesting, and the opportunity to work there is I'm really grateful.
And there's what's happening in the design, especially with maybe with web design as well, is that there are several tools that are trying to do different things, right? There is
Yeah.
Sketch, there is Figma, there is, I don't know if there, and you guys at Vision are doing other tools. Adobe is trying to kind of also modernize maybe their tools. What do you think of that scope?
One first thing is I love that there's so many options and there's this diversity of tools. They're trying to solve this problem of creating the best tool that designers can use to make them more efficient and more creative. I think having a diverse set of tools out there, it creates a very healthy competition where it's like we're all striving for the same, but at the same time we all have the things that make us a little bit different. And so as a designer, I think it's great because you get to choose from different options. You get to see what are the things that make a tool special and how can you use that into your workflow. And so it can also be a little bit tricky for someone that is that potentially is starting and it's like, which tool should I use? Which is the one that I should focus on and should invest? I can tell you, you should try them all and then make a decision. You should try in Vision Studio because I work there. But I think as a team in Envision, we embrace that competition because that makes us better. With that, that makes us understand that other people are trying to solve those same problems, or potentially problems that we didn't even know that were problems, and that helps us like be better too. So we applaud to all the things that like you're saying, Adobe, Sketch, Figma, they're all doing. We are really happy that this competition exists, and again, because we all care about that experience that a designer has, and we all want the same thing.
So do you think like also a lot of things are moving to the web, even like tools like even design tools like Figma is built with web technology, right?
Yeah.
And there is Slack that is built on web technologies as well. Do you think that the web is influencing a lot design tools, and are design tools adapting enough for that, for the things that are happening on the web?
Sometimes there's a little bit of catch up, the web introduces a new technology or a new way of doing things, and the design tool has to catch up to those things, like for example Flexbox or CSS Grid. And so a design tool, sometimes the design tools that we have sometimes aren't able to recreate those things, or you can recreate them in a very static way, which in the web, it just the code puts the layout in a place. If you're using Flexbox, for example, or CSS Grid, it would just put it in place because you set the rules. And versus in some of the current design tools, you have to recreate that. You have to put things in place so they mimic how the technology actually works. So I wish sometimes that, and I think it's happening though, that those technologies, that the web, like you're saying, influence more how the design tools are built. Because if a design tool is able to recreate those behaviors, then as a designer, you will be more efficient and you will be
experimenting the right experience.
Exactly. And you wouldn't be creating something that is impossible. You're using the rules that the web uses too, which can also be a bad thing because you want creativity to not have limits too. But I think that can also be dangerous because then you create things that are not, or they're too difficult or unnecessary or too expensive. And so I think there's design tools should listen more to what the web does and how other products or iOS or Android or other languages, how they they work because what you're creating, it's potentially going to be, I mean, it's going to be coded, it's going to be implemented, and it's going to be following certain rules.
I feel that this gap is getting like not as big as it used to be. Before when we like I remember with PSDs, and the designers were like putting things that they were impossible to implement.
I know, man, and there's still some people that use Photoshop to design these things, and which I applaud if you have the patience to do it there. I think we, for a long time, we were hacking these tools. I mean, Photoshop was for photos, for editing photos and just like editing color and editing pixels at a very non-scalable way. So we started using it because that was a tool that was available. And that was a tool that as designers we were used to using. So we started hacking it to create web experiences. And we got really efficient at that. But you're right. The translation between a PSD and code was a huge amount of work to turn those pixels into actual code because that tool was not made for that. So suddenly when other tools become available like Sketch that make that translation a little bit better, you as a designer, we started following the rules of the web a little bit more. We started using less pixels and less images. We're starting using like containers. We started using text layers that are actually text and vectors because when you implement it in the web, that's potentially going to be more efficient. It's not going to be a loaded images, a loaded JPEG that could just be a vector, could have just been a background color that
I remember
put on CSS.
My first experience was with Fireworks, and it will break your website into images and put them in tables. I don't know if you're old enough to experience that. That was hilarious. You'll have a huge image broken into the small little bits, and then that's your website.
That was your website, yeah. And Photoshop also did that. Well, still does it
with layers of links on top of them or something like that.
Yeah, and it was an art, dude. That stuff was that created. I suppose also it made it more difficult for other people to get into design these kind of things because it was so complex to do it and it was more difficult. Now with tools like InVision Studio, it makes it more accessible for anyone to start like designing things, and to also developers, if they want to design something, they get the tools that are that speak better to what a web experience will be. And they don't have to export all of these little elements. The learning curve is not as steep as it would with other tools. So I think it's getting better, much better.
So one of the things also that I feel is getting better and also bridging that gap is like I see a lot of web frameworks, they got components and they're getting like serious about components.
Yeah.
But also design tools are investing a lot into like components, symbols, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
In that particular tool. And that's also bridging the gap because like that on design systems and all these kind of things, they kind of getting these two things close together, right? Because if you have a design system, then you can implement it as a design system in your code, and then you have that coherence that is by design, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think you start speaking the same language, right? Or try to, at least when you build a design system in your design tool. When you're using the components and the way that you would implement them, then you can even potentially even use the same naming conventions. You could use the same variables. You can use the same styles that you would use in the implementation. So you're thinking, in a way, you're thinking as someone that is going to implement it too. So there are no surprises. When someone sees your design, like a front-end developer, they're not going to be like, oh, what is this? They're going to, oh yeah, I get it. It's following this structure. This is a button that is part of this system that has multiple different types of buttons. There's a default, there's a primary, and there's a secondary, and there's a, I don't know, disable type.
So once you establish that language, I guess maybe what you're saying is that it becomes more efficient, that collaboration between designers. And
yeah, it both are speaking the same language, and when you speak the same language, it just like the magic happens where you start creating in a more efficient way.
So I think that's also one of the things that always, I don't know, feel maybe weird or bothering when designers interact with like front-end developers, is that there is this kind of iterations are not exactly existing in the collaboration mode. Basically, like, okay, let me do the design, and the design is something that is, whenever it's done, then you start working. Maybe also that will help making like this process more iterative. Like, okay, I'm doing something, and then you give it, you ship it, they implement it, and when they implement it, they might find problems. They can get back to you as a designer and tell you like, oh yeah, I can fix these. These are the components I'm fixing. I don't know. Do you think that it will improve the collaboration in an iterative way?
I think design tools can do part of the job of that, making that collaboration better. I think at the end, it's also a human problem. It's a matter of communicating, right? And it's bringing the right people to the right meetings or the right conversations where everyone is involved in creating something. And it's not just, the people that plan it, the people that design it, and the people that implement it. No, it should be a team that is working on the same project, and everyone should be involved from the beginning. So again, there are no surprises to that person that is going to implement it. And like, I can only imagine like someone that is supposed to implement something, not understanding the problem, not understanding why. I would not be happy about, like, I would just like do it. Yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna do it. You wanted that color? Yeah. I don't care about the padding. I don't care about the topography because I was never involved in what the problem was.
Your project, yeah.
It's not exactly. I'm not invested in this. It's not my thing. And so I think to improve that collaboration, it's a matter also of how the culture exists and how the project is implemented or is become into the vision. The part of who is. Oh man, bro.
We can take it. Yeah.
Who is working on this? So who should be working on this vision? It should be the whole team. It should be everyone should be included, and that makes designers better too, because when they are designing something, they start seeing the different things that they wouldn't see.
Obviously, right.
The different scenarios of an implementation of something, where it's like we never really think about a disabled state or an error state or
the different browsers or the different kind of interactions or
exactly. We just like sometimes we are so or our understanding of the problem is so focused and narrow because we're not getting other people to rip it apart or tell us about the other problems that exist. So suddenly like, oh, okay, this is done. Okay, do it. And the other person like sees the whole picture and it's like, hey, you didn't do this. You didn't do this. What about this? Why didn't you tell me? Well, you never told me that we weren't even working on this.
Right.
So I think it's also a communication problem, and I think tools can do a little bit of enabling that conversation and making that conversation and communication a little bit easier. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Pablo.
Thank you.